Matthew 6:33 says, "If you will seek the kingdom of God first, all these things will be added unto you." Notice the mathematical term added. It says all these things will be added to you. Now, from a perspective of real value, addition is meaningless unless we're dealing with numbers greater than zero. 0 plus 0 equals 0. And this is true ad infinitum. One could add zeros together until they stretch around the globe, and still all the value of those added zeros would be 0. 0 is the ultimate value of all the accessories we seek in life. Movie stars and world leaders, business tycoons all think they are very important. And nightly news reports would have us to believe that the world revolves around these people, their influence, their power, and their wealth. But from God's perspective, it's all nothingness and utter futility. All of their wars, their struggles, all of their efforts to rise to the top of the ladder are worthless. And if this is so for the most powerful among men, how much more for us? When all is said and done, what is the purpose of everything that we do? We struggle and toil all of our lives, pushing, striving towards something, some purpose. But what? In an attempt to find meaning, we tell ourselves that we're doing it all for our children. But what do we actually teach our children? From us, they learn to add zeros together, and thus they inherit the same meaningless futility with which we've lived our own lives. All of the goods we acquire soon rot. Precious memories are forgotten. Money evaporates like the dew. The world keeps spinning and changing as people and kingdoms come and go. At the end of the day, everything the world has to offer is utter meaninglessness with less value than a zero. Yet, people spend their entire lives adding these meaningless zeros together. But if we're seeking the kingdom of God first, that means we've made God's kingdom the priority in our lives. And when God's kingdom is number one, suddenly all the zeros after it have meaning. All the zeros of life are meaningless unless God's kingdom is first. But put God's kingdom first, and you'll find that not only do you have ultimate purpose and meaning in life, but even the small things take on significance. You know, I come from a long line of preachers of the gospel, actually 5 generations on my father's side. It all started with my great-great-grandfather, August Kalenda. One day as I was looking at the family tree, it suddenly occurred to me that we know virtually nothing about anybody that came in the generations before great-great-grandpa August. We know a lot about him. We know a lot about the succeeding generations of preachers of the gospel, but before him, we know almost nothing about those ancestors. It's as though before Jesus came into my family, the Kalenda family, nothing really mattered. The stories, the struggles, the victories, the details of their lives, they just don't matter to anyone. Before Jesus came into my family, everything was meaningless and worthless, just a bunch of zeros. But that night, when my great-great-grandpa August heard beautiful music coming from inside a church, he went in, he sat down on the back row, he heard the gospel, and he made a decision for the first time to live for God's kingdom. Suddenly, something of value entered into our family. In front of all those meaningless zeros, God's kingdom became number one. And since that day, all of the blessings that have been added to our family have become a wonderful heritage that's worth more to me than great riches. Careers, life partners, finances, and so on. These things should never be our chief focus. All of these things will be sorted out and added to us, as Jesus said, as we keep the kingdom of God as our primary concern. And what we're talking about now, I want you to understand, seeking God's kingdom is not only relevant in the context of highly spiritual ministry issues. Jesus said that if we seek the kingdom first, then all these things will be added to us. This is one of the most powerful secrets that I know of to discovering God's will for your life. If you will set your sights on His kingdom and make that your priority, as you move toward it, everything else that you need will automatically be provided.